arsenal to try and become far more sashakt, stronger militarily. This edition talks about Bharat's naval posture, which is getting further bolstered. The INS Tamal, the second of the four Talwar-class stealth frigates, has been acquired in 2016. The Indo-Russian agreement, it is poised to bolster Bharat's maritime posture. The impending arrival of the INS Tamal, Bharat's newest BrahMos armed stealth frigate from Russia, serves as a potent symbol of enduring strategic partnership between New Delhi and Moscow. Now, the frigate is armed with BrahMos and fitted with onboard systems, all built in Bharat. The first ship of this batch, INS Tushil, was commissioned back in December 2024 by the Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, undertaking an extensive transcontinental journey to Bharat. Now, this approach aligns with Bharat's Make in India and Self-Reliant India initiatives, signifying a strategic pivot towards indigenous defence production. Now, these frigates, classified as improved Krivak 3 class vessels, also known as Project 11356, are designed for long-range blue water operations or deep-sea operations. These are equipped with advanced features such as stealth design, anti-submarine weapons, the still surface-to-air missile systems, and formidable BrahMos cruise missile. The INS Tamal itself incorporates approximately 26% of Bharat-made components. The broader Krivak 3 program encompasses a dual-track strategy. 2 frigates built in Russia, INS Tushil and INS Tamal, and 2, Tavasya and Triput, are to be constructed in Bharat's Goa Shipyard Limited or GSL through technology transfer. Significant for us as a country, viewers, as we strengthen and bolster, and not just the military or naval posture, but also with respect to building our own Atmanirbharta with aircrafts and strengthening our airspace. Top defense sources have told Money Control, part of the News 18 network, that Bharat is exploring the possibility of a potential partnership with French aerospace and defense major Safran to enhance its engine-making capabilities for the Indian Air Force fighter aircraft and to develop engines for its next-generation Tejas light combat aircraft or the LCA Mk2 fighter jets. Now, the Indian Air Force had ordered its first batch of Tejas Mk-1 fighters back in 2009-2010. The initial order was for 40 aircraft, 32 fighters and 8 trainers to be delivered by 2016. The IAF placed its second order for 83 Tejas Mk-1A jets, 73 fighters and 10 trainers in February 2021 as part of a 48,000 crore rupee deal between the Ministry of Defence and HAL, Hindustan Aeronautics Limited. Deliveries for this batch of jets were to start mid-2024, but they have been delayed. The fighter jets were to be built with GE's F404 IN-20 engines, but delays in the delivery of these engines were one of the major reasons for the delay of on-time delivery of the jets. Now, the deal, as per initial negotiations, also reportedly included 80% transfer of technology to Bharat. Now, the Safran push is also being seen as part of a wider push for defense upgradation after Operation Sindoor. If the Safran option actually works out, it will be for engines to power Tejas Mk2, with India requiring a large number of fighter jet engines in the future, especially in the light of recent military tensions with Pakistan. Officials are seeking alternatives to diversify sources and enhance the capabilities of its aircraft fleet. Now, the LCA Mk2 variant, that is 17.5 tons, a 4.5 generation fighter, is expected to replace the Mirage 2000, Jaguar and MiG-29 fighter jets currently deployed by the Indian Air Force. The LCA Mk2 variant weighs about 17.5 tons. It's a 4.5 generation fighter, and it could replace the Mirage 2000, could replace Jaguar, could replace MiG-29 jets. And defense sources are saying that we are now advancing. Only yesterday here on the right stand, we told you that the AMCA project has also been green-lighted. So that means not just building the low LCAs, but also the advanced medium combat aircraft are also now going to be worked on. That is the stealth. So 4.5 generation, 5th generation stealths all being worked. Lieutenant General DP Pandey with us here in the studio. Tilak Devasharji is also joining us. We should have Ambassador Deepak Vora also joining us here in the studio. We'll talk about Turkey. We'll talk about Balochistan. But first, gentlemen, as I say namaste and Jai Hind to you, let's talk about the Atmanirbharta in defense. Tejas Mk fighters, the INS Tamal, all of this, how critical is it for us? And do we need to actually work a little faster to play catch up with some of the nations that are ahead of us? General Pandey.
Yeah, so firstly, this Atmanirbharta issue, while has been introduced by this present government about 10 years back, about a decade back, somewhere the space picked up only in the second tenure when there was enough pressure and various reforms were introduced. The fact is that right now, even the conversation which is taking place is about our Western adversary. For me personally, I don't think Western adversary matters because we are quite well ahead in terms of economy, in terms of our technological advancement, in terms of equipment, pretty ahead of the Western neighbor. Our concern is always the northern one, right? So any investment which is taking place should be kept in mind how we are going to counter our northern neighbor in terms of ranges, in terms of payloads, in terms of the generations which we have to apply not only in the aircrafts but in all other forms of warfighting machineries, right? That is very important because he is at least a decade and a half ahead of us. Now, while he was able to use reverse engineering facet by carrying out all kind of international infringements to get ahead in technological advancements. In our case, we have been very concerned about very ethical in our system, and also somewhere in our requirement of meeting immediate necessities, our long-term investment to develop our internal ecosystem to build up technological base was missing. This is now happening. The other roadblock has been this inbuilt hatred, dislike for private players to be involved. Because the moment you talk of big ticket items, right, it is only the people who have got the capacities to actually invest into big ticket items will be there. When you go to the government systems, which are generally lethargic, they are slow to deliver, they are office and bureaucratic bound. A private player does it much more faster. So look at Kalyani on one hand. They developed the entire system of the gun system, which was being bought by everybody else, including the Americans, but could not be introduced into our system because of variety of lethargic systems.
Correct.
So I feel that somewhere time has now come to start investing, allowing the private players to take lead, and this move of the government of India to allow the exports to take place, which is again a big no-no. Right? We are not exporters. We don't want to sell arms and all those things. When you want to punch, even along with your weight, I'm not saying above your weight, you need to categorize certain ethical norms when you're trying to grow up in terms of a nation or a country.
True, there can be an ethical sale, but nations that want to defend themselves can't afford it. They're looking at Bharat not just as a cost-effective, not just as a kifayati, but also a tikau and bharosemand option. That's what we have been able to show via Operation Sindoor. Ambassador Deepak Ora, namaste. Thank you for joining us. Tilak Devashar ji.
Thank you for asking. May I shake hands with the journalists?
Yes, please. This is your studio as much as ours, and the viewers know very clearly that we've got
always a pleasure
to
be with you.
But Tilak ji, let me ask you this jet engine issue. Rocket propulsion, jet engines, these have been an issue for us for a long time. Our aircrafts, our own rockets, a lot of things, we've got all our technology in place, but building our own jet engines, and these jet engines will help us even building our own frigates, our ships, submarines, and then the engineering of these jet engines or perhaps smaller versions will power our drones. So this is something which, are we picking up the pace in this? What's your understanding? Because there are others who are buying, they are doling it out to the enemy for their own reasons, strategic reasons. A vassal state does not need to make its own, it can also beg, borrow, steal. But we are building our own. Tilak ji, quick word on this, then we'll move on.
I won't look at specifically at the jet engine alone because it's too narrow a field. I think the point that General Pandey made is very relevant, that you have to look at two particular challenges that you face. Long-term challenge vis-a-vis China and the immediate challenge of Pakistan. I will not agree with him that Pakistan is not an issue. We make the mistake of taking our eyes off Pakistan, and it has a nasty habit of surprising you. So while keep one eye, keep a sideways look at Pakistan, don't ever ignore Pakistan. But we have to tackle both. So rather than focusing only on the jet engine, I would say we have a long-term problem. We have to play catch-up with Pakistan. I agree with that. With China, sorry. And we also have to keep track. Now, if Pakistan is getting 5th generation aircraft from China, so I believe now there is a bit of a step between the cup and lip. They're not getting them in August. But if they do, then you can't sit back and not do anything about it. So you both have an immediate problem. You have a long-term problem. But I think Atmanirbhar is certainly the way to go forward, which has been demonstrated in this engagement with Pakistan. The Indian equipment did so well. And for this, I'm glad we have got rid of two narratives that we had for 40 years. One was socialist and the other was moralistic. That, weapons are bad. We don't, get the private sector in, let them make their profit, but what they will deliver, I think, will be really something which is worthwhile, which will make India truly capable of fighting on its own without having to depend on other countries to give you. And also this socialistic thing that money is bad, this we've junked. I think money is good, but there's no question of money being bad. So, these two things have been got rid of. You focus on Atmanirbhar, you have to focus on both because you're living in a very dangerous neighborhood.
True.
So I haven't sidestepped the question about the engine, but I think let's look at the larger issue.
Right. I think Ambassador Saab, the larger issue is intent. It's not about money. It's not about what we want to do. The intent. Weapons are bad for the enemy, good for our defense. That's one attitude. The other thing is we must make more money because otherwise we can't spend. Public-private partnership, the industry has to come to the fore. One of the priorities has been to get this engine right. If you've got to go to another nation, then they will always know what we are using. Your thoughts there, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Always a pleasure to be with you. And then when I'm with the general, I feel totally relaxed because he knows everything. So it's so good to be with him. There was something that, you were hitting the civil service. Well, let me tell you, we're neither civil nor a service. And a good bureaucrat is a fellow who can invent a problem for every solution. So you give me the solution, I'll give you the problem. But that mindset is changing now. Now we are becoming more and more, with the present government, sir, let me say that I've seen this in the last 11 years, we are becoming more responsive. And this whole thing about the private sector, chor hai, badmash hai, gunda hai, daku hai, paise banayega, that is also disappearing. Narendra Modi Sahab, when he talks of private-public partnership, he means what he says what he means. It's a partnership, it's a synergy between the two. I can do certain things, you can do certain things. Now, the government is always lethargic, not true. The Army of India belongs to the government, to the people, and it's one of the best in the world. The civil service belongs to the people, the foreign service at least, belongs to the people, it's not private. We can deliver, sir. Look at our banks. I really say this from the bottom of my heart. Our state-owned institutions, the banking sector, brilliant. I mean, much better than all these Firangis who come and operate here. So, as you rightly said, it's a question of intent. And Mr. Daveshwar is there, who is a legend as far as Atankistan is concerned. Yes, we took our eyes. We were obsessed initially with Kashmir. Mr. Daveshwar, I have with me a book that I'm sure that you've read. It's by a character called Anatoly Levin. He's a terrorism expert. He teaches somewhere in England, lived in Pakistan. It's a romantic vision of Pakistan, but it's called Pakistan a hard country. And one of the things I've read it 5 times. He says something very interesting. Pakistan's 2 big problems, sir, this is very interesting. He says one is overpopulation. The country cannot support the rate at which they are growing. Therefore, if you can't reduce your birth rate, you kill more people. You send more people to die. You have a ready-made, this is his version, not mine, ready-made army of jihadis. Go to the slums of Karachi and pick them up. And second, he says, is water. That's why this mad Mullah Munir talks of, Kashmir is our jugular vein. So your jugular vein is in my hand, tiger. If I squeeze your jugular vein, the blood flow to your brain will stop. As it is, you have no brain. So therefore, the thing is that Kashmir will have to keep talking about it. This is their logic. And then for population control, get the jihadi. So while China is our enemy number 1, I have no doubt about it. At the same time, Pakistan has this ability to keep troubling us, to keep needling us. Deal with him, we are doing it. So you're seeing what's happening in Afghanistan. The Afghans hate the Pakis. You're seeing what's happening in Iran. They used to lob missiles at each other. Now suddenly this guy goes off to Iran. Oh, darling, darling, Islamic. Tomorrow they'll lob missiles at each other again. You'll see this happening time. And now about one more thing, sir. Mr. Deveshwar, I don't know if you agree, about Balochistan. You know, sir, I'm 74. I've been in the world long enough. Ambassador to 6 countries. I've seen this time and again, sir. Ultimately, for any country, there is no such thing as loyalty in international relations. You need loyalty, go buy a dog. What will happen is if the Baloch declare independence, and I'm saying this after considerable reflection, the Chinese who have interests in Balochistan, in mining, copper, gold, gas, etc. People talk about $1 trillion, that's all rubbish. It can be 2 trillion, 5 trillion, nobody knows. If the Baloch separate and Gwadar is in Balochistan, the Chinese will dump Pakistan and go to the Baloch and say, my darling, my sweetheart, and you'll see what's going on.
We will talk Balochistan in about 15 minutes from now. And we'll talk at length on this very angle, and we brought it up. The reason for getting you gentlemen back here on this midweek is to ensure that we talk about Turkey and we talk about Balochistan, and that was a promise made. That's why Tilakji is also there. We'll talk about Turkey now.
Cold Turkey.
Yeah. No, not necessarily cold.
Let me just talk about this technology thing again. So, you know, there was a system of globalization is great for the world.
Yeah.
It was a concept actually to take cheap labor, cheap stuff and sell it back, right? 2 things have happened. The loss of markets, loss of labor, jobs in the West, right, has realized that globalization was not so very good, right? It was okay for some time, but they have gone to one extreme. The second part, what has happened is this COVID when it struck and this 2 wars which have started, they have realized that the supply chain management is going to be entirely different. And the third thing, the rise of China has talked and told everybody that globalization is not so good. So when you're talking of this high-end niche technology system which is required for engines to support a 5th, 6th generation aircraft or even communication systems, satellite systems, the challenge is that number of components are being made at different corners of the world, which is very, very specialized stuff and requires high-end manufacturing systems to produce. Right. It is not only about software, but it is also of
the hardware.
Very, very pure hardware which is required to run these frames and also the engine.
Sir, I know I'm not qualified to say much. One of the key aspects of building a fantastic engine is also metallurgy. Now, if we can build temples which had got shrines, which have got Shivalingas and idols, which are pure form, the Vishnu Stamba stands 2,500 years without corroding. That means we have enough in our books, in our bank, in our knowledge bank to create and to go back and, revive metallurgy. I'm making this very humble, point because somebody raised this and said, we are not such great metallurgists. No, we are. It's just that perhaps we need to rediscover and infuse that confidence. And nothing happens without money. We are alone in the ring. I'm quoting the book by General Widge and the title of the book. But yes, we are alone in the ring. And that's why we've got to do it ourselves. Unless we can do it ourselves, we can build this. We are not going to be able to stand up and say that don't try and challenge my sovereignty. Somewhere that's a problem. And that's why nations all around us think that they can take us for granted. So this is a collective effort. Across the governments, across the industry, across everyone, we've got to get this engine technology right. If we can build our jet engines across the board, if we can have drones that can fly at the speed of sound, and then we have hypersonic on the other end, and we can retrofit that into our boats, into our tanks, into everything, imagine the speed that we'll get. That's where it is. That's the core of it. The Pushpak came from us. So if we can build, and it has been built in the past, and it's not a story, it's itihasa. So then there is knowledge and there is ability. I'm just leaving it, parking it there. Let's talk about current issues. Pakistan Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif meeting Turkey President Recep Tayyip Erdogan twice in the last 1 month, post Pahalgam. And not only after that reveals the true nature of their alliance, but also exposes this entire transnational alliance against Bharat. The Turkey-Pakistan nexus has worked beyond just Operation Sindoor and Pahalgam. It's been active for the last 7-8 years, especially after the abrogation of Article 370 in 2019. Years of planning, collaboration, from 2018's coordinated social media campaigns to 2022's RTOK in Sarajevo, every major anti-Bharat narrative has been amplified simultaneously from Islamabad and Istanbul. There is coordination there. Erdogan network isn't just diplomatic, it's operational. Through a web of NGOs spanning continents, the Erdogan family has built an influence ecosystem that abets everything from Hamas to Pakistan-sponsored anti-Bharat campaigns, including terror attacks. And Disinfo Lab has done a brilliant deconstruction of it, and we are quoting some of it. So I'm going to credit this flowchart also to Disinfo Lab. And this is open source intelligence that's been brought out here. Now, beyond military training, there is also the information wars waged by Turkey and Pakistan in collaborative effort. NGOs linked Erdogan's family accused of backing Hamas and Pak-sponsored anti-India campaigns. 2 weeks before Pahalgam attack, Tugwa, a think tank, was linked to Erdogan, hosted an event of Kashmiri independence. Turkey's TRT, accused of projecting resistance in Kashmir, giving a platform to separatists. 2021 report also says that TRT World employed 50 Pakistanis out of 300 staff based in Istanbul. Turkish media accused of slandering Saudi Prince Mohammed bin Salman for growing ties with Bharat. Pictures of MBS with PM Modi were used, and perhaps for a lot of defamation campaigns or slandering campaigns. TRT World, an Anadolu agency, among first international platforms to echo Pakistan's stand on the abrogation of 370. So I'm saying it all happened around that 2018 onwards. This has been amplified. Pak and Turkey accused of using OIC, weaponizing the OIC platform to amplify a narrative on CAA, NRC, Kashmir, claiming Islamophobia. 2 weeks ahead of Pahalgam terror attack, sequence of events transpired between Pak and Turkey. Think tank linked to Turkey's Erdogan family hosts propaganda event on Kashmir. TRT World interviews white-collar terrorist Muzammil Thakur for propaganda on Kashmir. 6th April, Muzammil was also chief guest at Tugwa, an organization closely linked to Erdogan family. Bilal Erdogan, Erdogan's son, sits on the advisory board of Tugwa. Tugwa pursues political ambitions of Erdogan's AK party via programs. Tugwa hosted Muzammil, and he got interviewed by the Turkey state affiliate media and propaganda arm TRT World. Muzammil also shared the stage with Hamas supporter Azam Tamimi in Onmatics, Istanbul, a network founded by Pakistani American. Tugwa is known for corruption allegations, promoting extremist Islamist ideology through jihadist camps, and also working with Insani Haq o Hurriyat IHH that supports Al-Qaeda and also the ISIS or Daesh. This is not the first time Turkey is abetted with anti-India figures. In 2016, TRT was the first portal to interview this person, Muzammil, and project him as the face of resistance in Kashmir globally. It was the first time Muzammil was actually has started getting international platform. On 9th April, Pak think tank CISS-AJK released a report whitewashing Pulwama terror attack and blaming Bharat's ruling party for pushing South Asia to nuclear brink. As per the 2021 report, TRT World employed 50 Pakistanis. We've told you that also, including producers, editors, people who are spinning out the narrative. They're all based in Istanbul. TRT World, Anadolu agency, are tasked with carrying propaganda favorable to Turkey-Pak alliance. So there is a lot. Further, intel sources saying that Turkey has a long-term radicalization plan for Bharat. The Turkish government has already and is actively providing logistical, diplomatic, financial support to various terror groups worldwide. CNN News 18 has decoded Turkey's role as a radicalization sleeper cell against Bharat, highlighting the involvement of Turkey's National Intelligence Organization, MIT, and state-backed NGOs in systematically supporting terror groups like Jamaat-e-Islami, Hizbul Mujahideen, and the Popular Front of India or PFI that now stands banned. So this is over the last 4 or 5 years this has happened. They've also openly engaged with the likes of Zakir Naik, and also sources confirm MIT and NGOs such as IHH are targeting youth from Kashmir and also from Kerala. Earlier reports by CNN News 18 have indicated PFI members joining ISIS, travelling to Syria with assistance from IHH, a Turkey-based government-backed NGO. Intelligence points to MIT and Bilal Erdogan, son of Turkish president, targeting Kashmiri and Kerala youth. Bilal Erdogan's NGO, such as the Turkey Youth Foundation or Tugwa, reportedly bring Indian Muslim youth from Kerala and Kashmir to Turkey under the Erasmus scheme. These youth are subsequently introduced to Pakistani organizations like Jamaat-e-Islami, Hizbul, and anti-India groups like PFI. Turkish intelligence, ISI, aimed to destabilize mainland Bharat and after Jammu and Kashmir, say sources. IHH-linked MIT has ties with PFI since 2018. The Turkish charity group has been involved in funding, facilitating arms smuggling to Hizbul via Nepal, and Turkish-made pistols recovered from also terrorists in Jammu and Kashmir in 2024. There is a long list, and there's a lot of information. We've just put some of it. General Pandey?
So,
on the ball or off it?
Deveshwar ji is here, so I had the fortune of briefing him some time back when I was ADG Stratcom. But what I am very happy is that there is a term called white collar terrorist, which was
Don't look at me while using that term, sir.
which was coined by me when I was the GOC 15 core. And I must also acknowledge, state here, sir, that a lot of people got after me by this decoupling of overground workers and white collar terrorists, right? They said, no, they are one. And I had de-hyphenated this deliberately because of a different reason. Overground workers were something like low-end guys, but white collar terrorists were like Muzabil Thakur. So there was a lot of comeback on me, pushback, don't use this. But I continue to use, and I'm so happy that
it's now part
CNN
of the regular lexicon.
So two things which I had conned was hybrid terrorist and white collar terrorist has become part of lexicon. So one part which I just want to start saying is that, look, this issue of Turkey wanting to do all this is not new, and it is not only doing to India, but the word which you used or the line which you used was worldwide. This competition between Iran, Saudi Arabia, Turkey and Pakistan, right, had commenced some time back, somewhere about 1965, that who will be the leader of the Muslim Ummah. Okay, and this Saudis were in the lead for a long time, investing a lot of money, effort, because oil money was coming, and Turkey was put behind somewhere in the same, because they were quite modern country and coming out of age, moving away from the radical Islam, which was possibly not part of the Ottoman system. With coming of Erdogan, that changed, right? And the global war on terror changed everything in favor of Turkey, which was at the cusp of both Asia and Europe, right? And that became a transition point for Erdogan to run the narrative. So he's got a finger in each of the pie, right? All over the place, not only in India, in Syria, in Iran, against Saudi, against everybody, because he wants to emerge and leave a legacy behind that he was something very great to bring forward the Turkish or the Ottoman empire kind of a thing back into the thing, and they are the top leader of Islamic world. And Pakistan, which was competing because it's lost space, has now again become the thing which I have been talking of, the tissue paper, not only of the Americans but also of the Turkey, right? A couple of things happened in 2019 when the Kashmiri youth, which was going very smoothly, easily to sign on a envelope by Gilani that okay, give visa, he is going for study, and they used to be going for education, so-called education, the terror education. They found it much more difficult to go to Pakistan. They started moving to Turkey, right? So Muzammil Thakur is one case. Very prominent Gilani's one of the relatives moved in to pursue her mass communication, and then she was a journalist there. The advantage of these people moving to Turkey was much more money, greater comfort of modern life, which is something akin to Europe, and unlike Pakistan, where they had to roam around into a different dress code, the men and the women who are moving out to the radical this thing find much more suitable space in Turkey, right? And therefore this ecosystem started going up there. It is much more easier to get a visa to go to Turkey rather than getting a visa to Pakistan.
Did you see, I think you were there in Jammu and Kashmir at that time, you were serving there, right? So did you see in
2020 what happened is suddenly 20 billboards came about in entire valley, right? Showing invest in Turkey. There's nothing about Turkey in this thing. While the connection of Turkish systems, the military intelligence with supporting the funding anti-India people across the country, especially in Kerala and Kashmir, was ongoing, but it took certain degree of speed in 2019 onwards. A greater investment was taking place, not only on social media. So there were clubhouses which was being run. There's a guy called Turkiye Ivan, right? He was the major kingpin who was running a social media campaign after 2019, asking for videos of stone pelting, resistance movement, human rights violation, and he got frustrated. There was a time which I was there when this entire thing he was getting clips which are older clips, but not after 2019. There's a very frustrating social media post he gave out that ये कश्मीरियों को क्या हो गया है, what has happened to the Kashmiris that they are not able to raise their voice, right? Why are they getting into the peace and what is happening and I'm losing my funding? It was absolutely into face a social media caption which came out, right, when as a corps commander. So while we were able to defeat this narrative, but the fact is there are enough numbers which are wanting to get that money from Turkey, which is willing to give that money to them. And it's very, very dangerous, not in terms of physical movement to Turkey, but also the funding and the control through sleeper cells, which is...
Yeah, I think it's the mental war, isn't it? Corrupting the space and this radicalization. So you have white-collar terrorists, as you coined the phrase, I'm using it. Hybrid terrorists was another thing which is now part of the lexicon. Ambassador Deepak Vora and then Tilakji, on this role of Turkey, and how is it then that this escaped the scrutiny of the powers that be, the government of the day? Why is it that we are doing dosti with them, allowing them to seed themselves into corporate life here, investments here, etc., etc.?
There was a time in our foreign policy, in our view of the world, when we didn't take Turkey very seriously. It is there to have the successor of the Ottomans, etc., and their interest is more, they were part of NATO, they wanted to clobber the Soviet Union, etc., so let them keep busy over there. So subsequently, when this Ada Darban, whatever his name is, this buffoon came around, that suddenly Turkey began to revive its Islamic credentials and memories of the great Ottoman Empire from the 13th to the 19th century. First World War, of course, it disappeared. I think that was revived, and this guy tried to play the Islamic card. You might also remember, sir, that he and that...
they changed the nature of the Hagia Sophia itself when he
Thank
did
you very
that,
much. Exactly.
So when that happened, did that not set the alarm bells ringing, saying this is
once
going
again,
to have a ripple effect
once
in Bharat
again,
also?
we were so absorbed in looking at Pakistan and China that beyond that we were not looking, sir. It escaped our view. You are absolutely right. But also, you remember that this character Erdogan and that cricket player from Pakistan and that 1,000-year-old Malaysian Prime Minister who lost his job, they wanted to form an Islamic BBC, etc. Then the question came, they met in the UN side. I was there at that particular session. Who's going to pay? So the cricket player said, tum do, he said, tum do, he said, tum do, and that idea died. But it continued. They wanted to have create a kind of parallel organization of Islamic cooperation. That also died. So you were so right in the beginning that the claimants to leadership of the Islamic world, the Ottoman Empire has gone. It also included a lot of non-Islamic countries. But claimants to leadership, Turkey with its atavism once upon a time. Pakistan, I have the nuke. Saudi Arabia, I have the money. Iran, tigers, don't forget about me. I have a powerful army. This till it is resolved, sir. You'll see this like in a chessboard, a gestalt pattern. You'll see the shifting alliances and movements going on within these four fellows. So at the moment, I believe we are playing our cards right. We are letting Turkey know, not just the social media, where thanks to your channel, I think thousands of Indians cancel their bookings to travel to. Not that it's going to destroy the Turkish economy or whatever is left of it, but it's a powerful statement of support for the idea of Bharat, that we are not going to take this nonsense from you. That itself has tremendous amount of, you are talking of social media, this character who was running a campaign, etc. It has an influencer. We might scoff at it.
No, there's influence.
But whatever you publish, you yourself personally, if you write, people read it. They trust you. Ultimately, in international relations, as Chanakya said, trust. Ab bharosa nahi hai, to kuch nahi hai. And that bharosa will take a long time. So my own feeling, sir, we are paying attention, we are dismantling the network. It will take time, their roots have gone deep, but bharosa kariye, sir. This government is very serious about this.
I think there was also an issue that Turkey was coming out to be a modern country.
That's correct.
Yes, about a decade and a half back. They were leaning towards EU, they're part of NATO. There was also a perception, at least I have visited Turkey a couple of times, either transiting or on an official visit. There's a perception, and mind you, military doesn't want to follow what Erdogan wants to do.
Erdogan wants to.
Yeah.
Correct.
So
There is a
difference.
There is a dissonance
There's a
there.
dissonance there. But then there is a rural vote bank on which he has ridden on religious line. The fact is that nobody anticipated this turn of Erdogan wanting to do what it is doing now, right?
See, the
Last
Turks.
about 10 years.
See,
So-
history itself very clearly says the Turks didn't identify with the Arabs. Their form of Islam is one part, they follow Islam, but they are culturally Turks. And
They are not Arabs.
And they are not the ones who would go ahead. They want to establish or bring back Turkish dominance or Ottoman dominance, but not at the cost of harmony and largely very open-minded people. I've been to Turkey, but there are elements who are funding this because they want certain nations which are seen as thriving places of growth, which could be a future threat, Asia, and then create diffusion, create problems. Is this also, Tilakji, because Turkey wants to become the dominant player in the OIC? So if Bharat gravitates towards the UAE and Saudi Arabia, so Turkey looks at Bharat as an enemy. So there is a problem there. So this entire Turkey, Pakistan, Malaysia axis, how critical is that?
See, not only does Erdogan want to revive memories of the Ottoman Empire, he somehow thinks he is the avatar of Suleiman the Magnificent. You know, he really feels that he has that charisma and power in him. And when all the other states were, ruled over by Suleiman. Now that is absurd. You know, this is the 21st century. But megalomania has no limits. And you would recall that, when Malaysia, the thing that Ambassador Bora talked about, Malaysia, Turkey and Pakistan, there was an interesting incident that a cricketer had gone to the UN on the Saudi aircraft.
That's right.
And then the Saudis came to know that this man is planning to set up a channel, a TV channel with Malaysia and Turkey, and set up a grouping outside the OIC, which they will dominate.
They took the
He was in mid-air. He was in mid-air, and the Saudis called the plane back to New York on technical grounds, and the cricketer had to take a commercial flight to go back to Pakistan. That was really hilarious. But Turkey, I think you've really documented very well the Pakistani connection and Pakistan-Turkey connection in multifarious fields. And this is something that we have become aware of. I mean, aware of now, and I agree with Ambassador Bora that we never considered Turkey to be such an important player. I think Turkey has become important of late, and in trying to establish, especially the way it has turned right and become more Islamic, trying to attract people towards itself. And a country like Pakistan, you see, Pakistan's problem is it doesn't know whether its roots come from the sands of Arabia or comes from Turkey. So whichever one gives them a pat on the back temporarily, they go running to him, despite the fact that it is Saudi money which has given them 3 or 4 billion to boost their foreign exchange reserves. The minute Saudis pull those out, Pakistan will tank.
So that number
Despite
is 9 billion the Saudis have got, and said you can't touch that money, and they want them to add another billion to that.
Yeah.
While they're dancing with Turkey right now.
Yeah. Yet, you see, this is the duplicitous game that Pakistan has mastered the art of. They were supporting the Taliban to fight against the Americans, and yet they were part of the US war on terror. And similarly, they're playing footsie with both Saudi Arabia and with Turkey. With Turkey, they are most serious because Turkey is supplying them military equipment which the Saudis can't. Saudis given them money, but the hard military equipment, especially in terms of drones, frigates and stuff like that, it is Turkey that have gone to, and Turkey has supplied them. So they supplement what China is giving them. So the two of them together, China and Turkey together, are really the backbone today of the weapons that Pakistan has.
Let's just dwell. I know we've got to cover Balochistan next. We'll get to that. But then how is it and why is it, Ambassador Saab? Diplomatically, we've not been able to crack this. And between you and Tilakji, I want you to just dwell and say this duplicitous game or this double game. Dance with two enemies and defend them both, the Chinese and the Americans, the Saudis and the Turks. How is Pakistan able to do this and get away with it?
I would not say they...
Or why have we not been able to crack this?
Yeah, I would not say that we've not been successful. The Taliban, all right, Pakistan was on the one hand telling the Americans, I love you, on the other hand telling the Taliban, I love you. What is the consequence of that, sir? You tell me what is happening. I try and understand why it's happening. Look at it today. The Talibs cordially detest Pakistan. Mr. Deveshwar has written about this, talked about it. If there's one nationality they detest, it's the Pakistani. So that is not going to work. This, what they call it, the Mortimer-Durand line and all that, is all rubbish as far as the Afghans are concerned. I mean, I come from an Afghan family, sir, from a Pashtun family. I understand the hostility, the hatred that they have for Pakistan. So that didn't work. Why we are not able to break this is, sir, because still the Islamic card, because now Islam is under threat from across the world. After 9/11, sir, I mean, I say this, you know, with due respect to all the millions of people who watch your show. After 9/11, Islam's reputation was damned for a long time. That this is what Islam is all about. All that peaceful religion, ye hota hai, wo hota hai, it didn't make any difference. Turkey also, this buffoon, was very scared of Gulen. You remember Fatehullah Gulen, who died in the United States not too long ago, and the Gulenists were trying to unseat this character with American support. And then, of course, he, I think, put 100,000 army chaps in jail and teachers and civil servants, etc. He was also very fragile. I believe he's still very fragile. And he thinks by playing this card, it shores up his domestic strength. But he is trying to, sir, this is my, I don't know if you'll agree with me or, you know, General Saab would agree with the other colleagues. He is trying to create an Islamic constituency in a country that by definition is not radical.
Yeah, it's not. It's not. So that's why. So how is, and after the way he mishandled the earthquake, what happened, the devastation. See, it was embarrassment also for him strategically, because Bharat sent its missions there, and we extended a hand of friendship even though they were known foe. But that's one part. The people also not very happy with the way he handled the situation. Right. But Tilakji, why is it that we've not been able to crack how the Pakistanis play this game? Because that's important for us to crack as a nation. If we need to really ensure that Pakistan is isolated and doesn't get any help.
See, I think we are fully aware of it. We have cracked it, for example, in the OIC this time. There are several countries who refused to accept a Pakistani resolution.
That's right.
Right? Despite Pakistan's great efforts. So we have made inroads. And with Turkey and Saudi Arabia, they're going to fall very badly in between. You see, because the Saudis are not going to accept that ye paise bhi humse lete hain, then they go and sleep with Turkey. They're not going to accept it.
Right.
And the Saudis will give them a kick one of these days, withdraw their money primarily, and Turkey doesn't have money. Turkey may give them hard weapons, but it just does not have the money to park in the State Bank of Pakistan, which the Saudis have. Saudis have given them oil credits, that you buy oil and you don't have to pay for a year. UAE has given them oil credits. You know, if all these things cumulatively will sink Pakistan. Right now, they're not doing it because they don't want to do this.
I understand.
What I'm trying to say is that we are aware of it. I think Indian diplomacy is working very quietly and doing a lot of things which are not in the public domain.
Yeah, but here's the thing, sir, because if you say push the nation into disarray and economic penury, it's nothing but a bunch of crazies right now who are half educated, half radicalized, and half desperate in terms of survival and livelihood. So we are going to have a Syria-like situation in Pakistan, and that is not something that the neighborhood, especially Bharat, can afford, because on two sides we have two crazy nations which has got at least 20 to 30% radicalized population waiting to just break away, be it Bangladesh or Pakistan. It's a serious problem.
Look, this point has been raised a number of times.
Anand, if I can just say one thing.
Ji.
This is an image that Pakistan has studiously cultivated and blackmailed us with. You know, like this nuclear threat, that you dare attack us or do respond to a terror attack, we'll use our pow K-bomb. And we called the nuclear bluff and they fell flat on their face. Similarly, this whole thing of irrational behavior, that we will collapse, there will be a total problem in the neighborhood, what are you all going to do? I think this time this bluff was called.
Okay.
You know?
Nuclear weapons is a deterrent till they are not.
Till they are not.
Look, one thing just remember, a radical mind is the most rational mind. Right? And when that radical mind is at the top, is a bunch of elites, they need to ensure that they are not touched by the fire which they burn outside. So they will always have that nuclear bluff is bluff. It's not nuclear application. Right?
Correct.
So that one has to understand. Second, this point which everybody says, that what will happen in case Pakistan goes like something like Syria, it will possibly burn us. This has been thrown at me number of times in last few years.
Yeah.
I was a Army War College commandant where very senior leadership from variety of systems is to come. My view is that unlike Syria or in other parts of the world, there is a fence, there is a manned border. It is not like frontier that you can't define a line where people are just going to move across in mass movement and they will move left and right, carry forward, something like what is happening in Iran and Pakistan, or Iran and Afghanistan. These borders are sealed, manned 24/7, 365 days in a year. It may be breachable, but it can't be breachable as a large-scale migration problem, right? So that is one issue. So we should not be too worried because our security forces are there. They will handle the situation. There is a bureaucracy which will manage. The time and again this issue which you have asked before also from Tilakji and from this thing, that why have we not been able to crack this code of managing? Let's not get to trying to analyze too much about a prostitute is willing to do something at pay.
Correct.
The treatment what they are getting in the world stage is same. Their own film actors, their elite, they come out on the public space and speak out that when they go to any
they're looked down upon.
They are strip searched even if they are a very popular star in the country, right? Whereas an Indian who walks across with the welcome smile, even in Turkey. So we should not try and compare that country is trying to sink his image, right? By dancing with couple of men who are coming into their thing. We should not get too worried about it. And now look at Saudis. I think Tilakji has really amplified it so well. We have to understand that the Saudis are getting far more annoyed with this country, right? The only compulsion with Saudi is to not to stop that money which is flowing to them, that this country may go out into arms of somebody else. Right?
Yeah.
So that is the only thing. Otherwise, the disdain with which the Saudis, Dubai, Kuwait, all these countries, they're all Islamic countries.
In fact, they've actually started sending back Pakistani beggars because it became a $2 billion industry. Yeah. So they realized it's become the Pakistan begging industry, about 45 to 50,000 beggars in UAE and in Saudi Arabia. They're all being booted out, sent back to Pakistan because they realized it's turned out to be a $2 billion begging industry that's come out of the Pakistani. So that's the level they are. Sir, I have limited.
They are creative.
Okay, now let's talk about quickly. The Chinese are now trying to talk to the Baloch directly. This is another input that we've had, that 91% of the revenues go to the from Gwadar go to the Chinese. There is pressure on this entire Baloch issue. They want to talk to the Baloch directly. Beijing wants to engage with Baloch directly, speed up the process of CPAC. They are also keen for engagement to give positive signals to BRI and other partners. Now let's Balochistan. I'm just going to ask Tilakji to take the lead on this. We've got about 6 minutes, and between the three of you gentlemen, please share the time and share the load. What happens with Balochistan? Is this perhaps the biggest step that the Baloch, if they organize, they can take towards the Republic of Balochistan, that the Chinese are wanting to speak to them directly? Tilakji.
Yes, absolutely. I think the Baloch are getting organized. The military factions have got organized. They set up what's called the Balochistan National Army. You see, Balochistan is evolving or coming out of a tribal society. Tribal rivalries have marred Baloch unity for decades. They're coming out of it now because there's a strong civil society movement on the one hand, and there are the non-tribal Baloch from Makran, the coastal area especially, who have also taken the lead. So you have now middle-class Baloch, engineers, doctors, who are actually leading both the freedom fighters and the civil society movement. They don't want a restoration of tribal society. They want a modern, democratic Balochistan. They are coming together. And the very fact that the Chinese want to talk to them, I think the Chinese are pretty smart. They know which way the wind is blowing. And they feel, they have a lot of interest. They've invested money in Balochistan. If Pakistan can't handle it, maybe they can speak directly to the Baloch, see what their problem is, how best they can tackle it, and if there is a Republic of Balochistan, the Chinese will be the first to mark a deal with them. No questions. Chinese are pragmatic, they are practical. They have no love lost for Pakistan either. Pakistan is useful for them, just as Pakistan was useful to the United States. So the Chinese, this is a very strong indicator. I think Pakistan should be extremely worried if the Chinese actually want to talk to the Baloch, and if there are indications that they are talking to the Baloch. Maybe they're talking to them in London, they could be talking to them in other places in Europe where there is a Baloch diaspora. So this is a very worrying sign for Pakistan.
I was just simply going to say what Mr. Deveshwar has said is spot on. It's difficult to disagree with that level of knowledge. You might recall, sir, that when Taliban 1 regime was there, and the Pakistanis told the Chinese, don't worry, we have these guys under our control, we'll be able to do this, that and the other. But they were not able to, and the Chinese got very upset about it. Then when the Taliban 2 was coming, there used to be a chap called Mullah Baradar, I think.
Yeah, Mullah Baradar. Yeah.
And they called him to Beijing and described the Taliban as a pivotal force, telling the Pakistanis that, listen guys, you haven't been able to deliver. Now we are going to talk to them directly and do what. But of course the Taliban didn't listen and have been beating up these guys. Similarly with the Baloch, as Deveshwar said, son, I know the Baloch, sir. I've been interacting with them. It's very, very clear. They've started suicide bombings, which wasn't part of the tradition earlier. I knew, I hardly knew, but I'd met Nawab Ali Akbar Bukti, who was the great Baloch leader at that time, who actually told me in New York in one of our meetings that, son, I think we made a mistake in 47, 48. Whatever he meant, it didn't register in my mind in the mid-80s what he was talking about. But now that I look back, obviously he was saying we should have had some other view. My feeling is, China's if you look at the what do they call it? Yeah, the China-Pakistan exploitation, economic corridor. Most of the investment goes through this province called Balochistan.
Yeah.
And if Balochistan decides, look, goodbye Islamabad, I'm going my own way, the Chinese will be the first, sir, this I believe, to go up to them. Darlings, we've always loved you. Don't trouble me. Let me take the oil, let me take the copper, let me take the gold, let me take the gas, and Pakistan can go drown wherever it wants. Yeah. So they have nothing to gain from Pakistan.
This is a possibility also if the Baloch are listening and if the Baloch are watching this, because the Americans are also interested in Balochistan because of the rare earth minerals that they have. If a nation and its people organize themselves, they can use their resources to their advantage and partner with whoever gives them a larger share of the percentage. If it's a 60, 40, 70, 30 agreement that you retain 70%, the other one takes 30%, it's possible. 60, 40 is possible.
So,
why is Bharat not doing it? That's another question. Yeah, because we want to set up our own semiconductor foundry. So why aren't we doing it? Yes.
To be pragmatic, we are still not there to do something very, very major, right? So Bharat can do a moral support, right? Whatever it may happen, because eventually the route to Balochistan is not direct. It goes through Pakistan, right? Either it goes through Sindhu Desh, right? Or it goes through
Sindhu Desh. I like the sound of that.
From Jammu and Kashmir to Fatah and onto Balochistan. These are the two options. What are the competing requirements? The Americans want the resources of Balochistan, which is the rare earth. But the Chinese need the resources and also the BRI.
BRI and the port, of course. Yeah, of course.
So, the need of the Chinese is much more
stronger than the Americans.
The only thing is, and the other is, the Chinese have got the money to invest. They need it, they have money. The Americans don't have the money. Who has got the bargaining chip? The bargaining chip to control Pakistan is with China. How so? 80 to 85% of the
weapon systems are all from the Chinese.
Systems, support, manpower, manning, guidance comes from China. So I think Balochis will have to weigh which way to swing. They can't swing both ways.
The most important is they got to unite, and the possibility of a Republic of Balochistan is important if the Chinese want to speak to them directly. Gentlemen, thank you so much. How we run out of time whenever we have all of you together here on the right stand always escapes me. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Namaste. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Co-presented by... This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Alipurduar in West Bengal. Minister Udayan Guha has sparked a political firestorm with a controversial remark about Operation Sindoor. Udayan Guha, the Minister of North Bengal Development and a key Mamata Banerjee ally, has said that Operation Sindoor is being sold as a business. Someone who used to sell hot tea is now selling hot sindoor. The BJP has strongly condemned Guha's remarks, calling them an insult to the martyrs of the recent terrorist attack in Pahalgam and a disrespect to India's armed forces. The party demanded Mamata Banerjee take immediate action and remove Guha from her cabinet, citing concerns over national security in the strategically sensitive North Bengal region. Listen in.
কেউ কেউ আগে হয়তো চায়ের ব্যবসা করতেন, এখন তারা কেউ কেউ হয়তো সিঁদুরের ব্যবসা করছেন। আগে গরম চা বিক্রি করতেন, এখন গরম সিঁদুর তাদের রক্তের মধ্যে দিয়ে বয়ে যাচ্ছে। সেই সিঁদুর বিক্রি করবার জন্য একেবারে উত্তরবঙ্গের আলিপুরদুয়ার পর্যন্ত ছুটে আসছেন। কিন্তু আমার বক্তব্যটা হচ্ছে যে এইভাবে মানুষের মধ্যে বিষ ঢুকিয়ে দেওয়ার চেষ্টা করবেন না। মানুষের মধ্যে বিষ ঢুকিয়ে দিয়ে, ধর্মীয় বিষ ঢুকিয়ে দিয়ে মানুষে মানুষে বিভাজন তৈরি করবার চেষ্টা করবেন না। গরম চা বিক্রি করতেন, এখন তিনি গরম সিঁদুর বিক্রি করবার চেষ্টা করছেন। আমরা ওই ধরনের ব্যবসা করার জন্য এটা করি না। আমাদের কথা হচ্ছে সাম্প্রদায়িক সম্প্রীতিকে রক্ষা করতে হবে, মানুষকে এগিয়ে নিয়ে যেতে হবে। যারা মারা গেছেন তাদের মধ্যে তো আদিল শেখ ছিল, তারপরে ওই ঝন্টু শেখ ছিল, সবার কথাই তো ভাবতে হবে।
Kamalika Sen Gupta joins me with more perspective on the broadcast. Kamalika, just ahead of Prime Minister's visit to Bengal, how will Guha's remarks be perceived? Also, this when the TMC had largely stayed united with India as far as our armed forces are concerned.
This is a very responsible comment as stated by the BJP. BJP is going to take this issue up, that's very sure. And this is a place which is absolutely in the border. It's Cooch Behar is absolutely in the bordering area of Bangladesh. And tomorrow the Prime Minister is supposed to come. Here, the Udayan Guha, we have spoken to Udayan Guha, and though he does not want to comment right now on this, but he accepted what he said. He has said that the BJP, the Prime Minister Modi, is trying to take political advantage of it and trying to sell it. Now, this type of comment is absolutely uncalled for, as stated by BJP, when the entire their party is supporting the cause, and also none other than their National General Secretary is been travelling and telling people about what has happened and taking the obviously presenting the India facts. There is a demand of a parliamentary session. That's the party stand, that there should be a parliamentary session and they should come up that, you know, why this happened and other details should come up in the parliament. That is the demand that Mamata Banerjee has also been placed. But this type of comments, that is something which is uncalled for. Till now there has been no official reaction of Trinamool Congress, but then whether Trinamool Congress does something, anything, or cautions him or not, that is to be seen. Definitely this is one issue which will be picked up during the election also, because Bengal election is year after. But the thing is that at present situation, this type of comments are uncalled for. That's what experts are saying, and that too from a place which is absolutely located in the border, and when none other than the Prime Minister is coming tomorrow.
Many thanks to you, Kamalika, for bringing us all those inputs. And as Kamalika was highlighting that the BJP has already criticized Guha's comments, let's listen in to how Shahzad Poonawala of the BJP has reacted.
On one hand, TMC says that it is with the country, it is with the armed forces, it is the one which is supporting Operation Sindoor. But on the other hand, its tall leader Udayan Guha, who's a serial offender with the comments he's made on women, on doctors who are protesting during the Arjikar case, says that Operation Sindoor is being sold. Sindoor is being sold as a business. He also makes comments on the humble background of Prime Minister, who was a chaiwala. This shows not just the elitist mindset of the TMC, it also shows the mindset to attack the Sena's Manobal. And this is not a Sanyog, it is not a Prayog, it is Sahyog to Pakistan, to attack the Manobal of the forces. Congress has made these statements calling it Chutput. Then we have seen how it was compared to Operation Blue Star. Then we have been seeing how the statements have been made to undermine the Indian forces. We have seen how Pakistan is being given clean chit. And now the TMC makes this kind of comment on Operation Sindoor, disrespecting the bravery of our soldiers. It has become the part and parcel of TMC's politics because they put vote niti and also they put parivar niti above Rashtra niti. And therefore, Mr. Udayan Guha has made this statement. TMC should immediately act on Udayan Guha and should show that they stand with the armed forces, that they stand with the poor people of this country and they do not mock them for being chaiwala or for having humble background.
This is News 18 Network.
Good evening, you're watching Brass Tacks. I'm Zakir Jacob. Tamil actor Kamal Haasan has got into a bit of a soup ahead of his latest film, Thug Life with Mani Ratnam. At a promotional event in Bangalore, he referred to Kannada as being born out of Tamil. Now, there is no evidence to back up this claim. Kannada was first used in the 3rd century BC, while Tamil dates all the way back to 1000 BC. It's one of the oldest languages known. What is worse is that this was said in the presence of Shivraj Kumar, one of the leading stars in the Kannada film industry. He's also the son of the legendary thespian Dr. Rajkumar. Kamal Haasan, though, refuses to apologize for this mischaracterization by saying that he was saying whatever he did simply out of love. Now, the point is, does such mischaracterization when it comes to issues like language, and we know because of the Kaveri issue, because of other issues, there's been a lot of tensions on the question of language between Tamil Nadu and Karnataka. Does Mr. Kamal Haasan's defense that he was saying this out of love and therefore he finds no reason to apologize, does it hold?
இது அந்த ஊரில் இருக்கும் என் குடும்பம்